All right, I really feel like before we go any further with anything, I just need to say I'm so sorry.
Oh, for the movie?
Uh-huh. That's all. That's all I'll say now. I think I'll cue up my spiel now.
It's just, yeah, yeah, I have to leave it at that.
Welcome to Modern Metamorphoses, the podcast that looks at comics, prose, movies, TV shows, and other media involving the physical or mental alteration of its characters or metahuman themes. Striving to be insightful, respectful, and inclusive, this series will discuss adult material, but itself will be all access. Join us as we look how metamorphoses and media have evolved into the modern era. And I am one of your co-hosts, the transformation comics and prose creator, Dan Standing.
And I'm Alex Ford, the other co host, a social scientist and fetish researcher.
I'm so proud of myself for getting through that in a somewhat, logical process.
Yeah, it worked. It's great.
Yeah, I did it once. Okay. So, last time I picked a movie.
Yes, you did.
And I actually left it as a riddle for our listeners. And for those of you who may have figured it out and may have watched this movie, I must offer my apologies for even bringing it to your attention. I have tried to make this podcast a little more than just riffing on films that the transformation community probably knows about.
Yeah, I think we're trying to be above that.
Yeah, and to introduce new ideas and aspects into the conversation. That doesn't always work out. Some things I feel may have been best left to the dustbin of history, but we'll discuss more about that in a second. But let me first reveal to you the mystery of the riddle I posed last time.
Yeah, enlighten me.
Yes. So last time I said that there was a sequel to the 2003 film Old School, which many people may recall: Luke Wilson, Will Ferrell, Vince Vaughn, Jeremy Piven, etc. A really stand-up cast of older actors reliving glory days of college. I then posed a trivia fact that there was a sequel that was released in Spain in, I want to say, what was that, 2006? No,
Something
2003.
Like
in 2003, a sequel to it was released in Spain on DVD. The sequel was called, I had all of this queued up when I came in here. The sequel is called Aquellas, Universitarias 2, which is the sequel to what I presume is the Spanish title for Old School, being Aquellas, Universitarias 1. Probably didn't have uno when the film first came out over there.
Yeah, that doesn't seem really...
Yeah, seems a little redundant in that at that point. But this, in fact, was a film that was made in 1995 called Wish Me Luck. An American film that was then licensed in Europe to be the unofficial sequel to an American film that was imported, which is, if you grew up in the 60s or 70s, a weird inverse of what used to happen, particularly in fantasy and science fiction movies here in America, where you'd have a successful American movie come out and then, some European studio would make a cheap, money grab knockoff of it, and then it would come over here as like Alien 2 or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the inverse of that. This is an American film being brought over to Europe and retitled in order to cash in on the success of another American film brought over to Europe as a fake sequel. And oh boy, wish me luck. The weird thing is this is also a remake of another film.
Yeah, but What?
Yeah, so this is also Wish Me Luck is also a remake of a film from 1990 called Getting Lucky, at which so Wish Me Luck is about a genie and Getting Lucky is about a leprechaun. And that's I'm getting ahead of myself here. Mr. Ford,
Uh-huh.
you said that you had tried to describe this movie to somebody and it didn't necessarily go smoothly.
I couldn't. It literally defied explanation because it's like I was about half an hour in, and my partner was like, "Hey, so what you watching?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm watching a movie for the podcast. What's it about?" College kid. Wait, no, before that, there's genies in like a Technicolor Taj Mahal who uh are like cursed by some other evil genie who's actually played by a famous dude who's
Yeah.
basically like sent their son to Earth, I guess, and he's trapped there. And so like every 100 years they can send a genie to try to like do something about that. And I guess I just and then like there's a nerd boy and like there's a whole other side plot that like makes sense of like boy wants to be popular boy, but he's a nerd. He's an attractive nerd who just acts like a dweeb, and they do lots of rapey stuff, and then like there's a lingerie party, and like it sounds absurd, but this is literally how this happens.
Yeah, I mean, so normally we do try and like kind of talk through the film and give context to the transformations, and boy, will we get to the transformations. But there's it's this weird, like, just tropey, creepy 1990s like man sex film where if you really need the best scale of how to think about this film, Bethany Frankel is in it, and she's the best actor in the whole damn movie, I think. I challenge you to tell me that somebody else gave you a more believable performance than Bethany Frankel as random cheerleader Bridget.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, because like the guy I said is like a famous guy, like Tom Kane is a famous voice actor. He's like, if you ever watch like a Star Wars cartoon or anything like that, like he's Yoda. He's not Frank Oz. He's not Frank Oz, and like he does it consistently. Like he's a big deal, but this is like one of his first roles, and like he doesn't even do it as well as Bethany Frankel. Who wasn't she in the Wasp Woman?
Oh, I don't remember Bethany Frankel being in The Wasp Woman. I'm going to click
I,
over and check this, but uh,
her name was purple on the IMDb, and that makes me wonder like if we watched something with her in it before.
she's only got 4 actress credits.
Oh, then I have no idea.
I don't know what you were looking her up for,
That's a
but
great question, actually. I wish
yeah.
I
So
knew.
so Tom Kane as Slag. Now, granted, the Tom Kane's credit, they have him slathered in white pasty makeup and these long pointy fingernails as the evil wizard or genie brother thing. I'm not sure, but so he's got to act through quite a bit there. So I'll give him a little bit of credit there, but still, Bethany Frankel, congratulations, you're the best actor in the film according to my opinion. So let's you already sort of gave the best quick summary of this. This random sex comedy from the 1990s for some reason has a framing device of a royal genie's baby being kidnapped and deposited on Earth as some sort of punishment to somebody, like the evil wizard who's also his uncle kind of does
Yeah.
it just to basically spite his brother for marrying this woman. So already we've got questionable things going on in the film just for that.
I think it's funny because it's like the good genie is Alibaba Says Me
Yeah.
and
Also,
wife.
yeah, uh, we don't even get a real name for his wife, as far as I can tell. the names are questionable throughout this entire thing, because there's also a Dr. Riddle, whom I totally didn't even realize what character they were talking about. And
Yeah, who's Dr. Riddle?
Dr. Riddle, I believe, is the Jamaican stereotype we see at the beginning of the film.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think
How
that's
embarrassing.
Dr. Riddle. Yeah. It's an awesome name, but it there's no connection to who that character is or what their name. This film is so ineptly made that I also owe an apology to Mortal Kombat Annihilation, because Mortal Kombat Annihilation is a masterclass in competent filmmaking compared to Wish Me Luck. I think the only way we can even tell this story is just to try and connect the transformations, because the other thing that I need to say is that every character in this film is a piece of garbage. Except I don't know a lot about Dr. Riddle. He might be a perfectly competent professor. So, you know what? I'll give Dr. Riddle a pass. But I don't feel like there was one other person in this film whom was either not the most terrible stereotype of them, whether that is, cheerleader college character or old senile character.
Or a genie named Genie.
Or a genie named Genie. Or just the worst human being making the worst possible choices a character can make from just a level of humanity, except weirdly for the one character who turns into the main antagonist by the end of the film, who is actually not assaulting a woman. Weird. It's so this movie's so weird. That was the point where I was like, oh, I give you credit, movie. He's not sexually assaulting her. Good on you for making that choice.
Yeah, like that's the one time. The one time.
Yeah. So should we address the transformations and just try and kind of link them together in some semblance of logic?
I think we can just do that, because to give virtue of time to what is invariably just a sequence of events, like most movies are sequences of events, but they have like an underlying like theme, tone, goal, and this is just kind of like it reeks of that mid-90s like creepy vibe of just like, let's see how many naked women we can get together and potentially get to have sex on camera. It's just creepy.
Yeah, it's just a creepy film. And I 100% agree with that assessment.
I would prefer to just like get to what we're here for.
Yeah. I think we can upfront say, do not watch this movie.
Don't.
No.
It's not even good to laugh at. Like,
no.
Like, it's not even good for like the porn bits. Like,
no.
It's just not good at all for anything.
No, and I mean, honestly, if I didn't personally feel exceptionally guilty for making you watch this, I would would not even want us to like put time into like going through the transformations. But I'm like, I feel like we have to get some value out of what we went through.
It's the sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm 100% believer in the sunk cost fallacy, and it drives everybody around me nuts because they don't get it. So I'm kind of like, you know what? We just got to do this because everyone should know. There should be no mystery. Okay, I think here's the deal. There was a mystery to me about what was in this film. Like I kind of read, oh, okay, there's a chimpanzee or there's an orangutan transformation and she shrinks down into things. Like, these are things that I was curious about. I wanted to see them. I wanted to know more. It was that like that allure of anticipation of the unknown. Like, oh, I know what's in there. I wonder if it could possibly be like at all nearing what it is that I want to get out of a movie that features a woman in a beer stein having beer poured over her. Like, am I going to get out of this what I hope to get out of this as someone from the 80s who didn't have internet for a long time and just kind of had to hope that whatever the transformations they wanted to see would be brought to them by some random media somewhere. I feel like it's our job to be like, okay, this is what's in the movie. It's terrible. Don't even bother with the curiosity. Does that sound like a fair thing to do?
I would say, yeah, if you're in it for the transformation, there's infinitely better ways to get about it. And if you're in it for the mid 90s boner comedy, then go somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%. So it's a movie with a female genie in it. There are scenes where she shrinks down and goes inside of things. Never again her lamp that she comes out of at the beginning of the movie, which just vanishes from the plot.
I'm pretty sure the lamp was stuck on the string, like they couldn't get it off, and so they're just like, oh, I guess they were just never gonna have this.
They just left it with the fishing wire in the green screen and just moved on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So she shrinks down into a beer stein and then a flashlight that they've taken the batteries out of, right?
Yes.
And ostensibly, according to, again, this is definitely, again, I am so sorry, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. This is definitely a movie where they were just writing themselves out of corners or into sex positions as they were filming it. I'm 100% certain.
Oh yeah.
Because she just throws away the line of like, oh well, every once in a while I gotta jump back inside a thing to recharge my powers. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have to be, again, the lamp that vanishes and we never see again. It can be just whatever she feels like.
She just needs a timeout. Like, that's basically all she needs. It's just like, I need a place for Zen, and so she just can go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And at one point, it's I forgot about the beer can. So first it's the beer stein at the party.
Yes.
And I do believe, as I was watching this, I was messaging you, and I do believe that she goes into the beer stein in a bathroom, and I just had one fear.
Because then a drunk dude who is notoriously clumsy ambles into the bathroom, and I know in your head you're just like, oh no, things are gonna get gross.
I'm like, please, there's no way this film could have more standings than Help I Shrunk My Teacher, so where is this going to go?
And yeah, luckily it just, the dude sits down in the toilet and then just like, oh cool, beer and a beer stein, I can't just drink it out of a can anymore, upgrade. And yeah, she gets covered in beer and then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he drinks some. We don't actually see any impact to her in that regard, and then she jumps out of the thing after he leaves and she's fine.
Yeah, and then she looks at the huge dump he left in the toilet.
Oh yeah. Thankfully we do not see that. Again, it's the weird choices that I'm thankful that Wish Me Luck, did not choose. But I suppose that would have required them to move the camera to show that.
This movie is almost like Jazz in the sense that it's the shots they don't show you.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to deviate here for a second. There was one legitimate laugh it got out of me. And I'm so mad. I'm so mad at myself for this.
Oh, what's that?
There's the bit where there's a I'm going to say female character because her name, the movie does not care about this character because they literally throw her aside at the end of the film. But there's a female character whose father goes to his car with golf clubs.
Oh, right.
There's a note on the car that our main character has left, and he doesn't deserve a name either. The main character has left. It's in front of me, and I could say it, but you know what? Nobody gets a name. Nobody gets a name. Dr. Riddle gets a name, because I have no reason to dislike that character. The guy sees that there's a note on his car and puts the golf clubs up on the top of the car, reads the note, he throws the note away, gets in the car, and drives off with the golf clubs on top of the car. And the car pulls out of frame before you see the golf clubs fall off. And in my mind at that moment, I said to myself, God, wish me luck. You're so lazy you didn't even show us the final punchline of the gag of the clubs falling off. And then later in the movie, in a rare sign of forethought, you see this female character come out of the house and get in her car, and as she pulls away, it reveals her father's car, and the clubs are still on the roof. Like they
Yeah,
did not fall off. Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, is this continuity or is this like they literally filmed it the same day and just forgot?
I don't know. That's the level of production value of this film, is I literally could not tell you which one of those I think is the case, but I do know that I saw those, and because of my earlier like dismissiveness of the film, like laughed more at myself really, but I definitely laughed. Um, Getting back to the reason that modern metamorphosis exists, the shrinking transformations. Again, we have 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
What? We just saw a movie that involves shrinking.
Yeah.
What would you say the comparison of production effects are in regards to these 2 shrinking film effects?
Okay, so the last one, if we're talking about I Shrunk My Teacher, you don't see the shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of like happens off frame, and then the effects surrounding being small are good. And this one, you unfortunately see it because it almost looks like the opening to Reading Rainbow if it lost its budget.
I hadn't even thought about it that way.
It's just rough. It's painful and it's bad. And then you get like one shot of her being small in the beer stein, and it almost looks like just like made like a big circular room and kind of like did the Star Trek shake the walls thing. And that's for about like 2 seconds of the whole film. So ultimately the shrinking effects are not good.
Yeah. You will get a better genie shrinking into a thing effect from any I Dream of Jeannie episode.
Yeah.
Including the black and white ones.
Like, it's just
there's
just because you have the technology to edit that. I think they found out like Technicolor again, and they're like, oh hell yeah.
I mean,
that looks magical.
You could get a similar experience of watching Avalon Anders shrink down as by Googling her, downloading the picture, opening it up in like MS Paint, and then just dragging the image all the way up until it's really, really thin in one way or another. Like, there's no additional effects beyond that. It is the most terrible looking, like,
it's just bad. It's just bad.
It's really bad. It's really bad. I don't like saying that about anything, and it's just really bad. And it's the same for the shrinking into the beer can, and it's the same for shrinking into the flashlight. Like there's never one of them.
The beer can thing gets me so much because like the whole premise is like he has to go home. He lives with his grandpa, and we find this out like an hour into the movie. Like he lives with his grandpa, who is dangerously senile because he's like making stuff with eggs and throwing the shells in the mixture and mixing it around, smacking it with a whisk. And so he's like, I can't bring you home. Grandpa would be flipped out if I brought this hot chick home. And so she's like, oh, don't worry. I'll just hide in a beer can. And so she does. Senile grandpa walks in and goes, oh, he leaves his trash everywhere. Grabs specifically one beer can and throws it into the backyard in a huge pile of beer cans. And like, that's one thing. Because first off, his room, he has a poster of Darkman, which is like, I can give props to that because Darkman came out like a year before this movie came out, right? Like,
yeah.
When was Darkman? And that's an infinitely better movie.
And what's interesting though is that I guess they didn't get like the rights, because of course they didn't get the rights to use the actual Darkman poster. So Man is folded in half and folded up under the poster, so it's just Dark and then half Man, like that. It's not even the full poster. Like it's nothing about. Okay, again, nothing about this movie is done right. Like he just has black and white studio shots of like famous sitcom families all over his room, which I guess is because he doesn't have parents, and so I guess that's him. Like that's the storytelling way of saying he wants a family, so he's put all these pictures of TV families up on the wall, which is more character development that I can't even believe that I am giving this.
You're psychoanalyzing it. You can't. I was going to say also Darkman came out in 1990. So my bad.
Oh, the same year as the original film that this is based on. So
Yeah. It'd be smarter to put a poster of the that original movie in, but they didn't. But
I would be shocked if posters of Getting Lucky exist, honestly.
if I may get back to the whole thing about the grandpa, we find out later the grandpa's been in on the whole thing.
Yeah,
The
he's
grandpa's
also
like
a
a
genie.
magic assistant.
It's so weird. And so why is he even being portrayed again? Okay, elderly senility is not funny. It should not be played as a joke. But it's even weirder that it's a magical genie guardian who has decided the best way to look after this guy is to be an elderly senile individual.
I forgot about the most important part besides that, and that is he throws the can away. Old boy runs out and he's like, "Oh my God, you can't throw this can away. There's a lady. Hello, lady." And like his grandpa walks out and just like, "Oh, does your friend want lunch or whatever?" Like completely ignoring the fact of like, oh, he doesn't care if she's out in the backyard where everything's disgusting.
There's that, and then on top of that, okay, so there's one aspect of geniedom that this film doesn't care about at all, and it's the whole like genie is trapped in a thing until somebody rubs it and then they come out. That is not an aspect of this film. Like Lamp falls onto the grass from some other alternate genie world, she comes out of it. She jumps into a beer stein, the guy drinks out of
the
it.
Head.
Yeah, that guy. I feel bad for that guy who we never see again, so he might be dead.
I think he's dead.
Yeah, he might. Let's just start adding a body count to this film. So the beer stein, she also jumps out of on her own, and the beer can, she jumps out of on her own, but well after the point where she could have jumped out of it and changed the course of this random scene in the film. It isn't like she had to wait for male protagonist, I'm using finger quotes, male protagonist to come rub the can and let her out. Like it's not. There's no risk there. There's no stakes.
The only consequence is, oh no, someone discovered that I can hide in drink containers. Oh no.
Mm-hmm. Drink container, by the way, let's point out, is an aluminum can with what looks like masking tape put over it with real beer written on the masking tape.
I love the brand beer.
Mm-hmm. And there's even a character who, that might be a rabbit hole that we'll have to jump down it eventually when we get to the orangutan. But there's even a character at one point who kind of makes half a joke about how he loves real beer and is like holding the can when he says it. Like, I don't need to face that just yet. We'll get to him. So we've got Genie shrinking down and jumping back out as a transformation, completely, totally of her own free will and powers, with no limitation or aspect to that at all. I would think that part of the interesting thing for me of Genie transformations, particularly going in and out of the lamp, is that aspect of being kind of stuck there until somebody summons you.
Yeah, but that would keep the plot stuck on that thing, and it can't handle any more conflict than it doesn't already have.
That's true. I just basically mentioned it to say that that's another disappointment of me in the expectation of what this film with a genie in it could have incorporated, and it does not.
Yeah, the main bonus to this movie is the fact that it is only an hour and a half.
Oh God, was it only an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I was going to have to commit a whole day to it.
There was one movie I really wish I'd had a can of real beer for while watching it. It would have been this one. I would have much preferred. The next thing I have on my list of transformations that actually happen in this is kind of an odd one, because again, the rules that this film establishes or doesn't establish don't matter because they're all broken willy-nilly.
Right.
But at one point the genie manifests a barbarian woman.
Yeah.
Just of nothing. And then
apparates.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the question we have to ask is this creation of life, or did she just pop this individual from some space-time location into existence?
I feel like it's almost like a simulacrum, or what's the word? I think it's sort of like it's simulacrum. It's not an actual human. It's just like a very very lively mannequin
Okay.
that only serves one purpose and then just will, I assume, dissipate. The
Well,
Mr. Meeseeks of barbarian woman.
yeah, I think that might be it because again, she manifests in a scene separate from the scene she's created. Like, okay, let me
Yeah,
try and calm myself down.
we got to bring ourselves down
Bring myself down.
to
Blood
whatever
pressure.
base level it allows, so we can just try building this structure and watching it collapse in on itself.
Oh, they discovered apparently there's like a new type of like neutron star or black hole today, which is what I feel like has been created inside of my brain trying to
As,
wrap my head around all of this.
is it as dense as my disappointment?
Possibly. So I guess we have to talk about Elvis' character.
The best friend?
The best friend, who is a gentleman who I guess really loves Elvis and
Yeah.
pretends to be Elvis. Oh, elder life Elvis, I'm going to say, to be as polite as possible about it.
I'm just gonna say that we can't fault the actor for looking the way he does. We can fault the casting director or whoever the director said, "Hey, find some people to sit there and go, okay, the attractive nerd." It was literally like that. What was that trope that happens a lot? It was like, the girl's really pretty, but she's like a ponytail told tight. She doesn't wear makeup, big glasses, and as soon as you
Hmm.
take all that off, like in like not another teen movie, she's suddenly very attractive. It's the
Yes.
dude version of that. Like this dude looks like that Connolly fella from the 90s.
Uh,
I wish I could
um,
remember what he was.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's on the tip
Um,
of my tongue, but I can't.
yeah,
Well, it's an attractive fellow. Our main antagonist is absolutely an attractive fellow when, effort is put into it. As most human beings, I'm going to actually go as far as saying all human beings can be made to look attractive. This guy is one of those people who's an attractive human being, and they've clearly just nerded him over over the top for the purposes of the film. And he has a best friend who I guess is supposed to balance out or like enforce the nerdiness aspect.
something like that, because like he had to have the posse, the entourage, to really solidify that he's a nerd. Because like yeah, there's the dude who's like they're all very stereotypically unattractive. One's overweight and that's the joke. He
Mm.
like puts on fake mutton chops or
Yeah,
like the really big sideburns.
this film looks like it was filmed on VHS and then transferred to DVD on VHS because oh my god, I can't believe how much effort it took me to get this DVD, and I will talk about that. But for some reason, we have high enough fidelity where I can actually see where the sideburns are like taped and glued onto the side of his head. Like that detail I can see.
They're fake because later on in the movie he doesn't have them on.
Oh, really? Are they? I
He
totally did
doesn't
not even
sleep with
notice
them
that.
on.
I
He
did
puts
not
them
even
on to
notice
go
that.
out.
Oh God,
But like the
that totally
big
went over my head.
yeah, the big like how can you tell they're nerds besides the fact that like one of them literally only talks through his mouth, like he doesn't have any nasal inflection. And I feel like that's how that dude just normally talks and he was just cast to look bad. But they kept talking about, are you going to the convention this weekend?
Yeah, there's a ton of actually like very forced nerd references I noticed here and there. Like they mentioned Star Wars, I think once. They mention
It was
a
all very
few.
non-committal though.
Yeah, and it's clearly somebody who has heard these terms and knows that nerds say these terms, but just doesn't quite know how to, naturally bring them up in a conversation that nerds would have. And I count myself as a nerd, by the way. I'm a nerd.
Yeah,
Like,
we met at a
yeah,
con.
yeah, we met at a con. I've been to other like, comic book conventions. The There's no natural way that any of these nerd topics would have been brought up in these conversations that they've written. And in fact, as you said, that there is technically a posse of nerds, but two of them we never even see with our main character.
You're right. Yeah, they just stop existing. Like they're there for establishment, and then they just probably get hit in the head with the same lamp.
Yeah, and then they're gone for the rest of the film. Um, to make okay, so we have this nerd best friend who is
Yes.
also sees himself as Elvis, and the main character wants to introduce the genie to him, and is like, oh, you can't reveal me to anybody else. Oh
Yeah,
well,
it's
he'd
against the
rather.
rules.
Yeah, it's against these very selective rules because at the beginning of the movie, also she's like, I can't interact or interfere with anything at all, and then
I'm a
just gets.
genie, since
Mhm.
here specifically to be a genie with magic, but I cannot use magic to directly interfere with your quest to become a man.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know if we've been clear about that yet or not. So
No.
that is an important thing. The plot, for what it is, says that in order for whatever curse has been put on the main character, can only be broken by him becoming a man or
Within like
achieve.
48 hours.
Well, it's within 48. Just she has 48 hours to do it, and then if she fails, she becomes the property of the evil wizard. I think then another genie could try again in another whatever time
Yeah,
period.
it's not clear.
Yeah, it is 100% clear. So the stakes are really for her to get him to achieve manliness, I think is the phrase that is used,
Yeah.
within 48 hours. But again, she can't. She says that she's not allowed to directly interfere, and then from that moment on, just basically interferes more and more and more in the most roundabout, plot-driven circumstances.
Yeah.
And one of these rules is apparently he's not allowed to reveal to anybody that she's a genie, even though he definitely tells people that.
Like
And,
immediately.
yeah, and he says something along the lines of he'd much more believe a barbarian woman was in his room than a real genie, which is not a wish. It's not a request that this guy makes. It's just a statement. And
Yep.
we cut to the Elvis guy's bedroom, and as you said, I think you're right, a smokrum or however you pronounce it, because I don't think I know how to pronounce it, but I know the word. I can picture the word you're talking about. A barbarian woman appears, screams, raises her sword. I think she wakes him up. He pulls the covers over his head, and then she vanishes. That's the extent of this barbarian woman's existence in the film.
And it doesn't accomplish anything. It's not like he calls him after and goes, "Oh, genies are real."
No, like there's no purpose to it. The guy never even learns that this happened. We just cut to it, and that happens. But that's not even the most random part of that scene.
Oh, yeah.
Because immediately following the genie, the barbarian woman appearing, screaming, scaring the guy, and vanishing, the only other, I mean, cause process impact, like the only other transformation with, okay, there's one other one, but we'll talk later if that even counts. The only transformation with actual impact is,
Uh-huh.
sorry, I just, the guy turns into an orangutan.
Yeah. Full-blown real orangutan that can
Yeah.
speak English.
And I still don't know why.
Yeah, they like Mr. Edit. Or they like just dub over.
Well,
I'm
weirdly,
convinced that they ADR'd over all the lines anyway. But
yeah, I haven't had a chance to go back and watch the DVD to confirm whether or not I digitized it wrong, but there was certainly plenty of issues with the audio.
you can just tell because like it lined up a lot, but it was really, really clear no matter what. And you know they didn't have the budget for shotgun mics.
But there were other really weird moments though, where like when he gets in the car at one point, I can hear the like seatbelt, like the ding 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 ding, like
Yeah.
car doors open, like I can hear that. But you're right. Every other time when they're talking, it's very clearly been re-recorded somewhere. But again, the incompetency of the film notwithstanding, I'm not even questioning how the guy can speak English. I'm questioning why was he turned into an orangutan?
Because it's funny.
Uh-huh.
If it was actually funny.
Oh, meta reasons. Oh, right. Uh, I I don't. I don't understand why he is. And apparently, later on in the film, after she loses all her powers, that's definitely like he's still an orangutan. Like,
Yeah, he never quite stops being an orangutan who can
nope.
speak English.
We get a little like post scene. Actually, there is. Oh my! Did you watch to the end of the credits? Because I watched to the end to the credits, and there's even a post scene
There
with him.
was?
There
I actually
is.
went to the end to see if there was anything, and I don't remember anything.
It's just a shot of the orangutan in bed.
Oh, that's why I
That's
missed
it.
it.
Yeah, that's all it is. I actually almost turned it off because there's like a split second of like black, and then it cuts to him, and then it goes away again, and I'm like, what the hell? What was that?
Subliminal messaging.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, the only like transformation as one would classically think about it that actually sticks through the film is this guy for no reason whatsoever turning into an orangutan and apparently being fine with it.
Yeah, he's pretty chill.
Mm-hmm. But it is, again, it's just basically a film cut. Like there's no transition really from him to orangutan. It just kind of he covers himself, and then there's a really awkward cut, and when the covers come back down, orangutan. I guess thank God he only. You know what? I would bet that the only reason that they made it so that he doesn't sleep with the sideburns is that so nobody had to glue sideburns to an orangutan.
You know, I can imagine that ending up with like lost crew members.
Like the one part where they thought ahead as far as continuity in regards to like the safety of the crew.
Yep, and they're like, this thing seems really pissed off. Maybe we shouldn't test it.
Like, guys, we're lucky that we actually found an orangutan for the budget of this movie. We're basically paying him in fruit that I'm pretty sure an actual orangutan is not supposed to eat. So
I'm convinced they knew a guy. Like one guy knew a guy who had an
Mhm.
orangutan who could get one, and so they're just like, let's get it in here.
It does feel like that thing where like when all you have is a hammer, then every problem looks like a nail. It's like, well, if all you have is an orangutan, then every joke looks like a turn a guy into an orangutan joke.
Like you just like they're waiting for the moment. I always feel like that movie was written as a bunch of afterthoughts. Like knowing that it's a remake, I can almost see like they have like a whiteboard with all the points they need to hit, but they aren't sure how to get there. And so they just kind of like, well, I want to see this. I want to see
Mm-hmm.
a lingerie party that makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to write in a lingerie party and we're going to get actresses who are cool with it.
Yeah, which again, it boggles my mind that they had a roadmap. It's a remake of a movie. Like, how did they do this so badly?
Because they had to put boobs in it.
Well, I'm pretty sure the original has boobs in it, but
I think it has more.
It may. I think Getting Lucky probably does. Again, another one I've only like watched briefly parts of to make sure my DVD worked.
I googled it and the images were just like all the scenes that people wanted to see again.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah, which means that there's literally nothing of substance.
Don't worry, I'm not going to pick this one anytime within 2021, 22, 23.
2020's been bad enough. If you pick this movie again, I'm just going to say, oh, I didn't get a chance to watch it. But what I did get to see was a bunch of transformation on Great British Bake Off where they turned a bunch of ingredients into good. Let's talk about that.
We'll get to it, I swear. We really only have a couple things here that, again, I'm just touching on because I feel like it's a moral obligation at this point.
I feel like this is like a bag of like white bread that's been left on the side of the road for a while. It's like there's just a lot of holes, not a lot of substance, and you just don't want it. It was fine a while ago, but now it's just discarded, and as it rightfully should be.
It upsets me that we ever lived in a society where this film was okay to make.
Yeah, that this film was cool. And then deemed a sequel to apparently a significantly better movie.
Yeah, again, I don't know if we have anybody who listens to this podcast in Spain, but I'd like to apologize for the creation of this film as an American. And if you happened to have been bamboozled into purchasing that DVD, rest assuredly that I also was bamboozled into purchasing that DVD because probably
This
probably
is your hubris.
probably shocking nobody. Wish Me Luck has never been released in America on DVD. It has been released on VHS tape, and that VHS tape, at least the one on eBay, was like $150. And I was like, no, thank you. I am well aware that whatever's going to be on that is not going to be worth that much money. So with a little bit of Googling, I was able to track down the DVD as released in Spain. And thankfully, I am able to convert PAL region DVDs and purchase that, flew it in from Europe. And that's why and checked beforehand that there was an English language track, which again is a generous thing to say about this film. And when you watch my version of this film, you have all of these really generic, like yellow lettering on black background with a couple bits of Avalon Anders in silhouette dancing because, yeah, let's also make it look like a James Bond film. And then all of a sudden, when you get and everything, all the credits in English, and then when you get to where the title would be, it's almost like a PowerPoint like circle with the name, Universalis whatever 2 pops up, superimposed over it, like I'm watching an old like English converted Godzilla movie. I'm just like, oh my god, it's everything about it's crappily done. There's a I'm just gonna plow forward. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I want to get to the big debate.
Okay. So there's a scene where a stuffed animal, which is randomly sitting next to a hot tub, transforms into the evil wizard, which is probably the most competent transformation sequence of it. At least it kind of looks like a small thing becomes a large thing and then back again.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
If you squint.
There's no real rhyme or reason for why that is. It just happens, like everything in this film. But there is that stuffed animal to wizard and back again. And then, when I was coming up with this list, you added one. Do you want to talk about the added one, or?
Yeah.
Wait, actually, you added 2 of them.
I added 2?
Well, one was bike to car.
Oh yeah, because she finally pulls out all the stops at the end of like, we only have like an hour left. You gotta get the girl. You gotta be a man. He's like, well, I can't do that on a bike. And she's like, well, what do you want? It's like, give me a car, like a nice car. Stick or automatic? Stick. And it's like, dude, are you crazy? You've been riding a bike everywhere. In like 90s jeans. You don't know how to drive a stick. But apparently he do. But then later he don't.
Yeah, he managed to successfully get the car out of park and into A gear to get it out of the driveway.
And to make out point, like in piece, like one piece.
And then he randomly, I guess, forgets how to work a clutch. Because let me tell you, as someone who incompetently has been forced to learn how to drive a non-automatic vehicle of varying ages and types, you don't suddenly like screw up the clutch after mile 25. Like that's a mile 1 problem that you've got to figure out. Like,
and that's a long mile depending on how much you screw it up.
Mm-hmm. So that was another one where I messaged you and I was like, I in no way believe this man knows how to operate a manual shift. And then literally the next scene was him screwing it up, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess he doesn't. Thanks, movie, for weirdly showing it was
funny, and so they just did it. But yeah, which leads to the next transformation, which is from boy to man, because we cover more than just physical transformations. You say we cover the mental transformations as well.
Yes.
And
which is no, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm just gonna argue that like this transformation is so sudden that it counts.
Yeah. So so for the listeners at home, we don't normally go back and forth as much as we did before going into this film. Sometimes we're a little bit cold on how each of us thinks about this film, but it was so horrible mid-movie I had to start apologizing to Mr. Fort for it. And so we got to talking a little bit about it. And one of the things that is at the forefront of transformation themes are thinking about things as usually sudden, physical, and external to the character it's happening to. It's mostly the cause aspect of it all. And so we haven't talked too much about whether or not a character arc counts as transformation. Like every character really in a good film should really have that.
What a powerful caveat.
What a powerful caveat. However, again, because that's, if it's a good film, not a thing that just happens out of nowhere, it's not something that I normally think of in regards to, as far as like what happens in Ovid's Metamorphoses, is a transformation that comes suddenly and out of nowhere and externally. But this is definitely that.
Like, I can't say any character in this gets any arc or redemption, because even like the bad guys, either they get what's coming to them and it's not enough, or they get nothing at all. Like, everything just kind of stays the same, even though stuff happens. And then, right at the very end, like, Genie's like, you gotta get Jerry O'Connell, that's his name, I remember now. You gotta get Jerry O'Connell to, like, get the girl, because genies are incapable of love. It's a magic being kind of thing. So you gotta get this girl. She's like broke up with her boyfriend because he's the drunk asshole who leaves huge shits in other people's toilets. And the jock guy is so desperate to get her back. It like plays off as like he's going to assault her. He's going to like Biff in Back to the Future, like sexually assault her in a car on Makeout Point or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
But like, he follows her to this date after Jerry O'Connell gives her like the It poetry, hair like eyes like fire or whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how it is. It's not good
so
poetry
jarring
either.
that he just like drops poetry out of nowhere on the phone, and she's like, "Yeah, I gotta get this guy to Makeout Point for sure tonight." She drives her car. Bully follows her. She parks. He gets in her car like, "We just need to talk." And she's like, "Get out." And he's like, No, I don't want to do anything. I just want to talk. And that's like the most mature thing that happens in this entire movie. But then, go on.
No, I just wanted to say that it is so much so the last scene of Back to the Future when George McFly knocks out Biff. But it is one of those things where like I kind of need to give Wish Me Luck like 1 point in its score, because there's no actual sexual assault happening. It is literally this guy as wimpy as possible. Like, I don't like to say that in regards to any character, but like this character could not be being more wimpy. Like, I just want to talk, and she's slapping at him, and he is not fighting back. Like he's pulled back. Like there is
jacked and pathetic.
Yeah, like again, I'm not going to value the fact that this is a huge muscular guy who has gotten into a car with a woman. That is a terrifying thing, and the only reason that we as the audience understand that he's not going to sexually assault her is because we have followed the thin narrative of what is going on and understand that if that was what he wanted to do, he would be doing it. So I'm not trying to underscore the fact that it's a terrifying situation, but the
scenario is awful.
Yes.
It's hilarious that he's just like, I want to talk. And then Pretty Boy in a new suit and Rolex gets out of his stick shift, sees this kerfuffle, pulls the dude out, and gives him, like, I don't know if it was meant to be that, like, completely in-character punch so hard that he also falls over.
Yeah. Like, the whole scene is weird because not only does he rips the guy out of the car, but whips him around so fast that he elbows the poor woman in the face and knocks her cold.
Yeah.
And then, so he's actually responsible for the actual physical attack on this character, yanks this guy out, ineptly, like, punches him, and all of a sudden, the entire movie's special effects budget kicks into gear.
Things get really, really, like, Wonka tunnel vision for a second, And then he's at like the really cheap, stereotypical like Arabic dream palace. And like his dad, this white genie named Ali Baba Says Me, and wife are like, "Oh, you're back. This is wonderful." And
yes,
he's
congratulations.
dressed up. All right, and he's got like a fake earring in, and he's wearing like the vest. He looks like Aladdin, but worse.
And this again, one more point in the favor of Wish Me Luck. But again, I feel like part of this is just Stockholm syndrome that I've fallen into, and so I'm just
you're trying so hard to have a very positive 2020. You have to give a minor bit of credit to some garbage.
Yeah, that if there is a moral to this movie, and I don't think there really is, but we're gonna pry one out of it because, as Rolf says, if you don't give it one, someone will find one.
Yeah, we're gonna perform some alchemy.
Yeah, to the movie's credit, the entire time, both the genie and this guy have presumed make a man out of you or achieve your manliness has meant that he's had to lose his virginity. And at least the dad is like, oh, well, the curse is broken because you defended this woman's honor. And so that made you a man. And again, we won't get into the thing about like that men feeling that they have a moral obligation to defend women because they are helpless is a toxic idea. Everybody should,
that's a whole good grab on that, except for the fact that the dude wouldn't get out of the car.
Yeah. So that's a hole that needs a broader conversation. But again, weirdly, it's a point in this film's favor where they're like, oh no, you don't have to sleep with a woman to be a man. You just, you can just be an upstanding individual, and that counts. I'm like, oh yeah. God, wish me luck. This is total whiplash that I was not prepared for.
It only would have got, I feel like it gets a half point because it's still like you had to commit violence to be a man, when it could have just been like, oh no, fighting the oppressor is infinitely cooler, right? If they just use the language of just like, that guy is being really rapey, and stopping him is great. It has absolutely nothing to do with her. You're challenging his behavior, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, be better.
Be better, and
yes.
And you weren't silent in the face of just awful things. So you're a man now, whatever that means.
Yeah, whatever that means in this movie's skewed moral code, but.
And so I'll argue that man transformation is so sudden because he has been shown to be incredibly inept physically, despite the fact he cycles everywhere, and he's generally attractive despite his posture. But he's like gets tied to a tree by the bullies like naked, and like dogs keep peeing on him and stuff. And like he just like he doesn't fight, and he doesn't say what he wants, and then like the last 10 seconds he's like, you know what? I'm going to punch this man, this big burly man, and I better do it right because I'm next to a cliff.
Valid point.
And like,
I will
just,
go ahead.
It's so sudden and out of nowhere. And then like, it's over. That's it. Like, not the movie. I wish.
No.
But like his transformation's done.
Yeah, his transformation is finished there. And let me not overlook the fact that this moral character building moment in no way addresses the fact that at the beginning of the film he snuck into a woman's locker room and definitely openly ogled naked characters against their knowledge or will.
And he kept making weird noises, and that they kept hearing, and I can't imagine he was just watching.
No, and I've tried really hard not to think about whatever those noises really are, because thank God we don't really get the opportunity to see what that might be.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm taking that half point away. It didn't actually address the fact that this character is still a garbage human being, and punching out this guy doesn't actually show that he's grown in any other ways that matter.
There you go.
So yeah, so that kind of happens, and he just all of a sudden is like all confident and everything, but he's like, oh well, now that I'm a genie, great, but I don't want to stay here. I want to go back and be in love with the mortal woman who I just defended the honor of, quote unquote. And
yeah, I went through all this effort in the last half hour to woo this woman.
So I want to go back to her, and they object, and the mom is like, yeah, well, he's a prince, so he gets to make these decisions. You got to let him go. And again, Uncle Wizard we don't ever see again. It's not like undoing the curse on this one guy turns the wizard into a nerd or something like.
It doesn't like bring him into servitude. We never see the bad guy again.
No, he just again just stops being in the film, and that's the resolution to this part of the plot. So our new genie prince goes back down to Earth, gets back in the car with his poetry subject matter, and wakes her up in, again, the weirdest, creepiest vibe of like
with
just
his face, right? He wakes her up with his face.
No, he grabs her by the chin and like kind of guides her as she's waking up towards his face. He doesn't kiss her or anything, at least, but not while she's unconscious. I think they kiss after she wakes up. But
Okay.
meanwhile, something that's important, and you mentioned briefly, and this is the transformation I want to talk about. Meanwhile, throughout this entire film, genie, they say that the genie who manages to break the curse will have one of their own wishes granted for them. And we learn Genie talks about how genies, or at least for her type of genie, because apparently her parents, this guy's parents, are capable of love and romance. Genie is incapable of like romantic touch. Like she doesn't feel anything. Like she doesn't have that sort of human contact reception capability. And like that's her one wish, is to be human and mortal and be able to experience all of that. So that's what she wants.
She's basically aromantic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
she just can't feel it. So there's like physical sensation of being touched, but it doesn't mean anything more than I am being touched right now.
Yes. And let's say aromantic and asexual and all that is perfectly valid.
Yep.
And this is a
movie
weird
would get
aspect
points if it acknowledged it, but it doesn't.
It doesn't. And
it makes it seem like that's a flaw that needs to be overcome with magic.
And again, we're gonna put Wish Me Luck into the negative now as far as points are concerned.
Now we are.
Well, I had to unprogram myself from the Stockholm syndrome. So that's been her big thing throughout the whole movie, and there have been weird moments where the genie prince has like, again, this guy's our main character, our male main character, is a sleazeball, and has definitely been like physically attracted and coming on to Genie, even when he has been saying, "Oh, but I also really like this girl. Look at all the poetry I've written about her."
He wants every girl.
Yeah, like there's nothing romantic about what he's doing. He's a college student, and his hormones are going crazy, and he's just chasing whatever he sees, which is not. It's also a stereotype. That's not how. Anyway.
There's a lot of underlying systemic issues with portrayals.
Yeah. And again, I don't mean to state that about that character, implying that any of that is really the case.
Oh, no. I think everyone knows that we're kind of putting a mild amount of spite in every bit of description.
I certainly hope so. But again, I just want to make sure that that's crystal clear, and screw you, Wish Me Luck. So she goes through the entire movie wanting to get this wish granted, and of course the curse is broken, and you cut back to her, and Genie's just kind of alone at Lover's Point or Leap or whatever the hell it is, and all of a sudden she starts like rubbing her shoulders, and she realizes that she's cold, and she's like, "Oh, I'm cold. My wish has been granted. I can feel things like mortals do.
My denim jacket's doing nothing."
Yeah, and then there's that moment of like, "Oh crap, I didn't think this through," and she wishes the best to Genie Prince and his poetry subject matter,
main character and the girl,
and Genie wanders off into the night, and we then have the scene which never rings true, because the whole time I'm sitting here going, I will be impressed with Wish Me Luck if he actually doesn't go with the genie and sticks with this girl, like shows some actual character and loyalty to a character he's been pursuing the whole movie.
Yeah, that would be strong.
But stronger than Wish Me Luck is, because weirdly it's that girl who tells him that he's in love with Jeannie and that he should go get her, and they're just going to be good friends.
And he's like, yeah, friends.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to get with you for a few hours. Friends.
Yeah, I'm gonna go chase the other girl. Bye. Like, I mean, granted, that to that female characters get a no, but none of these are people. None of these are people. To her credit, though, that is a wise choice she has made. She has, throughout this movie, both broken up with the jock who gets drunk and kind of half abuses her in weird ways and is totally irresponsible, and also breaks up with the guy who clearly is chasing anybody he sees. Those are two well-made decisions. Congratulations to that character.
Yeah, oh, he writes poetry. But I also just met him. He seems nice. Yeah, friends.
Yeah, friends.
He used magic to try to get me.
So, he runs after Jeannie. She's scared. She doesn't know, like, what to do in the human world. Again, maybe that should have been part of the wish we never actually hear you make. Of, like, you know, oh, well, I want to be human, but also, like, capable of existing in this world. But anyway.
Human with an extensive amount of money.
Yeah, maybe a social security number. You know,
cool.
something. It is the mid-90s, so, you know, maybe she could have gotten away with it. But he catches up with her in the car, says the same poetry he wrote for the other girl to now Jeannie.
Yeah.
Which is a real dick move.
Because she was there when he wrote it.
Yeah, she knows that poetry's not about her. You can't just reuse the same poetry for different female interest.
You know I'm capable of romance, babe. You were there.
Yeah. Just, you know, control, copy, you know, control, find, replace your name for hers. And, you know, it doesn't rhyme anymore, but, you know, whatever. You get the idea. You know, I'm a genie prince
he's
now.
Like, hey, I'm a prince.
Which she knows he is anyway. It's not even a surprise.
But that would be just, like, really funny. It's just like, hey, I actually have status now. And cool jacket.
It is a better jacket, but I also think it's the jacket Jeannie gave him at that point. Like, I think he's back in his clothing from earlier. But anyway, because again, all of her magic, when all of the wishes she's granted, and wishes is in quotes, because I don't think anybody ever really uses I wish anything in this film. All of her magic still sticks and is permanent. So he still has the car, he still has the suit. The Elvis guy is still an orangutan. Like, he drives up in the car, assures her that everything will be fine. I'll take care of you. And I guess they fly away in the car, if I'm remembering correctly. Like,
they
fly. I think they fly back to Technicolor Taj Mahal.
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I like repressed that because it was like Grease but worse.
Well, and also, if he just is going to take her back to Genie World, she's had her wish taken from her.
Well, no, she gets the part where she gets to enjoy physical romantic touch.
I guess so. So that's
but
what I want.
That doesn't help. That's not better.
No, that's not better. This is the part that I actually want to talk about. So most of the transformations that, you know, happen in movies, particularly in the ones that we've approached so far, have been human being becomes something superhuman, metahuman, anthropomorphic, bigger, smaller, something arguably unhuman-like in some way.
They've been altered from standard human.
Right. This is a case of a character who is not human becoming human. And I'm just interested in exploring a little bit what that experience might be like.
That's because, like, physically there's no real difference. She looks the same. If anything, she seems unhappy.
I do feel like if you go from basically being numb to sensation to all of a sudden all of it, particularly in a chilly night wherever they are, that's probably not the first sensation you want to experience.
Yeah, and also just like, well, this guy I've fallen for is getting the girl he wants. And then, you know, he shows up like, hey, we're friends. I feel like just the experience can't be amazing, but then again, I've always had the experience of like enjoying physical touch. So I can't imagine what it's like to get it when not having it. Like I've never not had it, but I've also never had the ability to make anything possible which can make people happy. So like,
yeah, I always find it's interesting. So first of all, the best equivalent to this sensation that I can imagine is like when your foot falls asleep, and you're poking it, and eventually you can start to feel that sensation of it being poked like come back. Like that's the only thing I can imagine is an imaginably equivalent experience to that. Again, from my point of view, from my experience. But
and my only real experience is like when you're like really depressed and nothing really seems to be anything. Shows aren't funny. Like someone can like hold your hand, but you just don't feel anything from it. There's like a disconnect in your brain where just like the chemicals aren't going, so you don't get anything out of it. And if anything, that makes you feel worse because you want it, you've had it, and now all the situations are good for it, but you're not getting anything from it.
But that's also an instance where you know what it is you're missing. She doesn't know what it is she's missing. She's observed it. She's observed what she thinks is what she wants, but she doesn't have that sense of I've lost this and I want it back. It's I've never had this and now I want to experience it, which part of that was also the aspect of being romanced, which again, we've skipped through if she's going to be with this guy because he's already gotten to the point of, I love you, we're going to be together forever, which is not the same sort of experience of like the, first meeting each other, getting that spark of interest and that curiosity, growing to know one another. Like all of that is a thing that she wanted, but apparently is not going to be given to her since it's like, well, the guy has shown up and I'm literally going to save you from this world that you do not know how to live in and whisk you away somewhere else.
Yeah, but like she gets a character development in the sense that she comes to Earth unknowing of what is going on and only being raised, air quotes, by cheerleaders.
Yeah,
and a nerdy boy.
Let's not forget the fact that she has 48 hours to help this guy get a girl, and I'm going to presume that the reason she joins the cheerleading squad is maybe, well, if I think that the only way he can become a man is by having sex, I guess I should meet some women to introduce him to. I'm going to posit that as the reason she joins the cheerleading squad during these 48 hours that she has.
Because it's never stated.
No, there's never a reason given why she has to, A, join the school as a student, which we also have a scene of her doing, and then B, join the cheerleading squad. Like, it's not ever said that she wants to have a human experience. Her wish is to have romantic experience, both in the emotional and in the physical aspect, and none of those other things play to that. But it's still, outside of the one guy randomly being stuck as an orangutan for no reason, the most I can give as a cause process impact in regards to the arc of the story, because it's a thing that she as a character chooses that she wants. I don't think I can even apply that to the nerdy main character. He certainly wants to have sex, but it's not for it's not for any particular reason other than that he's horny. Like, she has seen a goal that she wants and she is pursuing it. And in order to do that, she has to break a curse, and that's the cause. The process is, I guess, instantaneous. We don't really see any change, as you mentioned.
There's a flash of white.
Yes, that's true. There's a flash of white. So she goes from an attractive genie, a stereotypically attractive genie, to a stereotypically attractive human being. And then the impact is she's stuck like that. Like, that's it. She no longer has magical powers, and she can feel cold.
She is a mundane, yet attractive.
Yes. But again, given no further autonomy in her situation.
Yeah, we never really see the true impact of dealing with the mundanity of, like, cool, now go get a job.
Mm-hmm. I would almost be interested in seeing this as like a gender swapped I Dream of Jeannie, where now she is the human character who doesn't want doesn't want to have magic used to help her. She wants to learn her own way. She wants to become her own person. And it's now the guy who's the genie who like really wants to help her and like keeps like trying to sneak magic in to
Do
like
we ever see
help
him
with
use
her.
magic?
No, we don't, but they say he's a genie, so
I thought
Oh,
he
wait.
like rescinded his geniness by leaving.
well, again though, he does make the car fly. So
Yeah.
I guess something. Oh man, we're trying to apply too much. Again, this movie does not care about any of this cause and effect crap.
I was just reminded. Did you ever see the G.I. Joe movie?
Oh, a long time ago.
Do you remember like the whole premise is like we have created a nanomachine that like makes sure that my soldiers don't feel anything, so they're like
Oh,
the perfect machine killers.
That GI Joe movie. Okay, less long ago than the animated movie, which I
Yeah.
presumed you were talking to me about.
No, I'm talking about the live action one with The Rock.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait.
And then like about 30 minutes later when the G.I. Joes are storming the sinking iceberg base.
Don't get
Which
me
is
started
already
on the
upsetting.
sinking icebergs. Oh my God.
Yeah, but like that's like I'm reminded of that bit because it's like one, the iceberg sinks for some reason, and two, like they throw a grenade at these soldiers' feet and they scream and then they explode. And I feel like this movie is like just like that moment where you're like, aren't they not supposed to feel anything? And like what's going on outside? Like none of this makes sense, but it's a whole hour and a half of that feeling.
Okay, let me say something. I am a huge Stephen Sommers fan. I love Deep Rising. I love both Mummy films. I love Van Helsing. It's terrible, but I love Van Helsing. I'm a huge Stephen Sommers fan. I was the key person to go into G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, and I was fine with that film through most of its Eiffel Tower destroying absurdity. But I kid you not, in the film, in the theater, as they're in the underwater South Pole, North Pole, whatever it is, base, and Cobra Commander is like fire off the charges, bring the ice down crashing upon us. I shouted, "Ice doesn't sink!" That was my break point. I have argued with people that there must have been somebody during the writing of that scene or the filming of it or the special effects who must have had a drink with ice cubes in it at hand, who could have gone, oh, wait a minute, that's not how ice works. Famously, not how ice works.
The Titanic would have been in much better shape if buoyancy wasn't a thing.
Yeah, if
But
ice sank.
The Titanic floated because of buoyancy. I can't say that.
Yeah, that's true. That's a whole other problem with the Titanic. But oh my God. So thank you for bringing up the fact that ice sank in that movie, because it is, of all of the plot holes in all of filmdom, that is the one that bothers me possibly the most.
I was particularly upset. This is a huge tangent, but I was upset because that movie came out when I was an undergrad, and I was still in the engineering program, and so I was taking a chemistry exam not even like a week before we pirated this film, which I can say now because the statute of limitations is long past, and you can't prove I did it. But in the chemistry exam, they were asking about if we were to have ice and water and the ice would melt, would the water level stay the same or lower? And I was like, ice is less dense than water, so the volume would change when it melts, right?
I know this puzzle, and I think it actually, oh crap, I used to know. I know this was a Mr. Wizard episode that I saw that I should know the answer to this from. Do you remember the answer? Or
I know the answer that they
inquiring?
gave me, and that it stays the same because due to the rules of buoyancy, that you displace as much weight in water as your volume, right?
Yes, and that also on a real world physical aspect of it, there's also ice, but there's also air bubbles in ice, and so there's actually slightly less water in ice than there is actual water.
And so in my head, I said, oh, the water level would lower because there's less water, right? It's less dense than water. So the fact that it floats and displaces a certain amount of water doesn't mean that there's. Well, apparently the answer is it stays the same. And I'm still a little bitter. And so then, like, a week later, that movie happened, and I'm like, it's less dense.
I was just thinking today about the difference between the high level wordplay of a thing and the physical. Like, there's the education of a metaphysical thing, and then there's the knowledge of a physical thing. Like, I got angry about this particular thing in science. We're going to just talk about this now. Wish me luck. There was. I was in a chemistry class in high school, and the question was, how long would half-life of a radioactive element last for?
Right.
No, not how long, but like how long would it go on for? And this one kid was like, well, you can split something in half infinitely, so it would go on, so half-life goes on forever. At which point, my response was, well, at some point you get down to 4 atoms, and then those 4 radioactive atoms become 2 radioactive atoms, and those 2 radioactive atoms become 1 radioactive atom. And at some point, that radioactive atom does not split into 2 half radioactive atoms.
Right. Yeah.
Because otherwise,
it's not asymptotic. There is a definite finite end of an atom.
And so I remember having to argue that with this individual because of, like, there's a difference between a theoretical, yes, you can split something in half technically forever, but eventually in this case you get down to the physical limitation of what it is you're talking about. And then there's the other thing where there's the big joke where there's supposedly a Yogi Berra quote where it's like he was giving directions to somebody and he said that when you get to the fork in the road, take it. And yes, at the high level, when you're thinking about that, you're thinking in your head, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're thinking in your head basically of a capital Y, where one line meets 2 other equally, like, splitting, like, 45-degree lines as the fork in the road.
Or and like so a T or something.
Yes, or like a T. And you can laugh at that in your head from a high level, but from a actual, like, being there level, I guarantee you that I could tell people who live, like, around here, oh, and when the road splits, take the split. Because in a physical moment, you'll know, okay, well, this road is clearly continuing that way. Like 83 is clearly continuing that way, and this new road that splits off is a different road. So from context of a situation, I can say, oh yeah, I can take this, I can take the fork. This makes sense in this situation with context and real world application.
Right. And the semantics of it would be if there were 2 equally paved with viable roads, that would be a terrible direction to give. But if, like, one is the main road and it's got the paving and all the same width and everything, the same line pattern, and then there's, like, you know, a split and it's like gravel, you say take the split, more often than not they're going to turn on to gravel.
Right. Because contextually, on the ground, that makes sense. So anyway, I was just thinking of the juxtaposition, because I've learned the proper word for that. Hey, I retained knowledge. That has actually been in my head lately, and so I am glad that I have had an excuse to talk about that in this roundabout matter. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out. This movie
sucks, and I'd rather talk about physics and bitterness over a chemistry 120 exam.
Oh, I would much rather just continue down the idea of semantics versus, physical things. But that's not what this podcast is. Modern Metamorphosis is about transformations in modern media. And while we could talk about perhaps the transformation of metaphysical to real world application, that's not really what we're here for.
We can talk about the transformation of us talking about a bad movie into us talking about literally anything else.
Yeah, but
that doesn't count.
It doesn't really count, no. And we've somehow managed to dedicate 90 minutes to Wish Me Luck, so I feel like we've, somehow squeezed blood from the stone of this terrible, terrible film. Anyway,
We got to
I
figure
just
out which
thought
one of us is going to do the sexy dancing at the end.
of the from the credit scene.
Yeah, where they said,
Yeah,
what's her name? Avalon Anders.
Avalon Anders. Yes.
Just doing like a really really tame belly dance for like in slow motion for like 5 minutes on black screen with white text scrolling.
I mean, you paid for Avalon Anders. You're gonna put her in. She's literally the name above the credit, name above the title.
On the IMDb page, the description of the movie is literally Avalon Anders is a genie who helps a boy become a man in college. Like that's literally all it says.
I would actually say that based on the user and like other reviews that I have seen here, I don't think anyone who wrote anything in here actually watched this film, and I don't blame them.
They only had to watch it to make sure it didn't glitch out halfway.
Yeah, it's part of the reason I've picked some of these more obscure films, or that I've sought them out, is because I want to expand the knowledge base of transformations in modern media, and there's very little that I could find online about this movie outside of, they tried to rip people off in Spain about it, and it's a remake of another probably equally terrible film. But again, I'm sorry, Getting Lucky. I'm judging you on your remake, and no film deserves to be judged on its remake. But so part of this has been to like add to the shared knowledge for the transformation community, and
as a warning sign.
Yes, in this case, 100% a warning sign. I'm not even going to explore anything more about this. The most interesting thing that I'm going to take away from it is trying to decide what the experience of going from genie to human is. But again, you can get that from almost any film with a genie character in it, because they all get turned to human at the end, and that seems like a trope that we need to get out of. Because
I think Robin Williams' genie probably has the best arc, and he's extremely pleased about it. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does get to keep most of his phenomenal cosmic power, though. That there's a significant difference there.
I can't help but feel like this movie was made by time travelers who like had an AI watch a bunch of like Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds and Getting Lucky and all that stuff, and like write a film plot, because it's got almost every like aspect of that, with the exception of the girls get really good vengeance on the jocks for little to no reason than just they're sadistic.
I would say that if you handed this to me as part of a Turing test, I would absolutely believe that. And oh my God, did my Audacity just crash?
Oh no.
Are you recording on the Skype?
I am.
Oh, thank goodness, because I think my Audacity just crashed.
Yeah, it says automatic recording is on, so I believe that we are recording this.
Okay, well
I think.
Okay. I'm gonna tamp down the heart attack a little bit. But oh God, what was I even saying before that happened?
We were talking about a Turing test.
Oh yes, if you handed me this script as part of a Turing test, I absolutely would have 100% believed that it was an artificial intelligence that had, absorbed all of those films you just said and fail it, like.
And put out movie of woman is half naked, woman is now full naked. You don't see anything above like the waist. You may occasionally see a butt. They have kind of sex. It is disappointing.
There is equal opportunity butt in this film.
No, it is not equal opportunity. There is one male butt, and then there's a lingerie party of women.
Okay, yes. All right, so we definitely see more skin. That is absolutely unequal. But there was at least nude male butt twice in two different scenes.
Yeah, and there's a lot of male nipple. We gotta be fair.
Well, yeah.
It was so jarring. I was like, is it gonna do it? And within the first 10 minutes, like, yeah, they're doing this. Okay.
Anyway. Well, apparently we've talked so much about Wish Me Luck that even my Audacity has decided it's had enough.
It's becoming self-aware.
Yeah, even it's like, screw this, I'm out, guys. I can't take this anymore. why don't we just do our break here for our advertising and personal plugs. If you would like to see yourself advertised on a podcast next to such outstanding films as Wish Me Luck, email modmetapodcast@gmail.com. We've got I think pretty good rates for advertising. Get a blurb up on here. We'll talk about your stuff. Again, we are only going to advertise transformation themed material because this is a podcast by the transformation community for the transformation community. And I will not do raid. I'm not gonna take money from raid. I swear, it's not gonna happen.
Like the bug spray?
No, that's stupid. I haven't played it. It might not be stupid, but that app phone game or whatever I advertised everywhere, or purple or blue apron. You want to hear an ad for one of those? Go to any other podcast, but
or Audible.
Anyway,
if I had a book I read on Audible, I'd promote it, but I haven't, so I won't.
I will actually say, okay, all right. So I did personally sign up for Audible just so I could hear what the audiobook for God's Behaving Badly was like, as I was curious, because again, in the very beginning of that book is a tree transformation and a conversation between a goddess and said woman who was turned into a tree. So I wanted to hear what that would sound like, and I have not listened to it yet. I have successfully downloaded it, and I will give Audible some credit. They charged me for a renewal to the membership that I did not ask for and actually attempted to stop, but it did end up getting charged. However, they refunded it to me with no hassle whatsoever through their chat thing. So, you know what? Congrats, Audible. I'll say something nice about you. I was able to actually reach a human being, and they actually refunded me my money. So good on you for that. You're less terrible than Wish Me Luck.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, Wish Me Luck wasn't produced by Amazon.
That's true. So I am, as I mentioned earlier, correctly, without any stuttering or problems, am a transformation comics and story creator. I have a Patreon. It is patreon.com/dsredux, DSREDUX, where I post stories and comics. By the time this episode airs, presuming all technological problems are resolved before we end this, the phase 2 of my comic Myth Trial will have started. Myth Trial is about, right now, a bunch of characters who all took turns trying to transform one of their colleagues into a bimbo at their request. And we are going to learn in phase 2 that there may be a more insidious reason for that than they at first realized. It's been a really fun thing to do so far. It's illustrated by $1, who's also the person who illustrates Blooming Fairies. Also has a comic on Mind Control Comics, and I really enjoy it. I think it's really good. I think it looks beautiful. $1's been knocking it out of the park, and if you're interested in seeing it, you can sign up at my Patreon, patreon.com/dsredux. Anything on your side?
As of late, I've actually been pretty chill. I've been streaming more on my partner and I's Twitch, doing video game plays for the Black Lives Matter movement, and other varying Black organizations. Because as soon as they're like, "Hey, we've gotten a lot of money from donations. Would you mind stepping back a little bit?" We just pick another one.
Nice.
That is twitch.tv/nymgamer_hijinks with a Y, HIJYNX. And we'll be there every Saturday from 7 to 10 for the foreseeable future, even when this comes out, because we're having a really good time. We made it to affiliate.
Oh, so, very cool.
Yeah, so any money that we make from that also gets donated to charity.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Black Lives Matter. That's amazing that y'all are doing that, and I hope that people can tune in and help out with that.
Yeah, it's been really nice because in order to get to affiliate, you have to have 50 subscribers. And then just this last weekend, I talked about this podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so hopefully you might get a little more traffic on this end.
Nice. I have not looked since then, most likely, so I'll have to check and let you know if we got a little bump.
Oh yeah.
So
I feel like lots of people are like, "Oh yeah, I gotta listen to that. I bet you Fort's gonna talk about really cool, social science stuff." And then here I am just talking about like this movie sucks, and I hate the fact they think ice sinks.
to our credit, we did talk about how ice doesn't sink and how radioactive half-life works. So I feel like
Science.
we've gotten some quality material in there that I hope made somebody a little better, because watching
Yes.
Wish Me Luck definitely made me a little worse.
I
So
I look at it now kind of like a really bad relationship. It's just like it. Luckily, it didn't last long, and I got out of it in a good, reasonable amount of time. And it's just kind of funny how I ended up there.
that's an excellent and healthy way of thinking about it.
I'm coping.
Now, it is your turn to pick the next film. I think I have for you set the bar pretty low.
I thought I had set the bar really low, and then somehow you surpassed that.
That's what I get for picking movies I haven't watched. So yeah. So where are we gonna go next from here?
So there's no better way to compensate for something as just tastelessly raunchy but tame but stupid than to go with like a good classic, lighthearted, a little more colorful. I want to do Sword in the Stone.
Ooh, I do enjoy me some Sword in the Stone.
Are we allowed to talk about Disney? Because if we get a cease and desist, I don't know if my heart can take it.
So part of the reason I switched over from YouTube videos to podcasts is because I'm pretty sure talking about a film is well within fair use. So
awesome, especially a
yeah.
movie from when was that? Like the 50s?
I used to
Give
know
up now.
But okay. I actually just
1963.
Oh, that's much. Oh, but that's the Xerox days of Disney. That's right.
Oh yeah.
That's why all that, like Robin Hood, 100 Dalmatians, it was like, well, we don't need inkers anymore. We'll just buy Xerox machines and transfer all our pencils to Xerox black and white on clear paper, clear cellophane. But true story. So
I don't doubt it at all.
That there's a very distinctive look, and look, I love Robin Hood. Robin Hood wasn't the first Disney film I saw in theaters, but it was the earliest Disney animated film I can remember seeing. And it has a very distinct kind of rough look to its animation. And it is literally because Disney bought a bunch of Xerox machines and got rid of all their inkers. So they're literally just pencils to cell frame.
Yeah.
And it's wild that that's the case. No transformations in Robin Hood, but let's take a moment to acknowledge that Robin Hood probably is undoubtedly the inspiration for a lot of people's interest in more than human interests.
If I may say, I think that Sword in the Stone also is partially responsible.
Yes, but I want to explore that in the next episode.
We'll explore that.
We'll explore all of that. Let's hold over Robin Hood for that. I think it's a great choice. Thank you for that choice.
It's the least I could do.
Preemptively, thank you. And yeah, I look forward to that. So, listeners, I know it's on Disney Plus. If you want to go watch Sword in the Stone for our prep, we'll go ahead and get that queued up for ourselves. And if you've made it this far, if you've lasted longer than Audacity, thank you for listening. I've been Dan Standing.
I've been Alex Fort.
And good night.
Have a good one.
I have nothing to click. I'm literally Audacity is closed, and I have nothing to click stop on.
That is so devastating.
Oh, all of a sudden, because I didn't even have it, like, it was open, but it wasn't the top window. And so, because I've got Discord open with our little outline,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden, I just saw the icon at the bottom of the screen just go voink and like disappear into itself. And I'm like, oh no!